We go back and forth on this channel between philosophy and mathematics, and it looks as though I'm now trending towards philosophy. Those of you who enjoy this channel on a regular basis, subscribers and non-subscribers, you're welcome to chime in as to whether you like the math proofs with the paper waving around, okay, or whether you like more of the philosophy. And again, I welcome input. Part of the problem with doing a lot of math is a lot of that you can find online. And a lot of that, frankly, you have very good explainers and presenters. And you have really, really excellent people. You can type in anything, Wilson's theorem, and get just a whole lot of YouTube channels dedicated to that type of thing. Very, very few of them, though, I think, dance back and forth between mathematics and philosophy. And so I have a unique style, and I don't want to give up a unique style necessarily by going to any one direction or the other. And so this is not a promise that I'm going to give up mathematics forever, because I kind of snuck a little bit of mathematics into my response to EW296. And a very, I hope, very polite and very friendly response to him, because you know, I've been having some shootouts at the OK Corral here, but I think they're among friends. Math for Physics, EW296, and I want to keep it that way. So, again, whether I discuss philosophy, mathematics, I am open to a lot of input, and I do want some input. My sense is that I'll probably keep it in the borderlands between the two of these, or maybe trend more towards philosophy and some of the deeper questions. Let's get into it. Chomsky and Foucault. And to be honest with you, to show what a provincial I am, I don't know how to pronounce them Foucault or Foucault. I mean, I honestly don't. I'm just going to pronounce them as Foucault, but it's F-O-U-C-A-L-T. And again, that shows you how provincial I really am out here on YouTube land. And you all thought I was a YouTube hack, and now you know it. Okay, but I just to get to some basic ideas explored by those two gentlemen. In the case of Noam Chomsky, he stems very much from what we might call the rationalist or the modern tradition. Okay. His form of anarchist socialism, or his form of radical liberation, stems very much from the idea that we have a platform and we are going to change society according to that platform. Now, I believe that my sense of what Foucault was trying to say is that he was not necessarily hostile to Chomsky, but that he understood that you can have a platform, you can have a formal system. For those of you who watched the last video discussing formal systems and Gödel's incompleteness, there's your chime in there. Anyways, you can have a formal system and it can call itself free, but that it still might be oppressive. Now that's that's a simpleton's attempt to understand Chomsky and Foucault. Okay, for those of you who are brilliant philosophers, I apologize for my ignorance about particularly Foucault, some of his deeper understandings. But my understanding is that Foucault saw liberation as going up against structures more than going up against formal systems. And you know, I think that as I looked at Chomsky and Foucault, just a little bit of the debates that I've seen, both in the printed word and on YouTube, I think each probably got a sense that the other was making a good point. And I think that in this day and age of, well, just what we're seeing in the news, the growing dominance of the few, the actual abandonment of even the pretext of anything approaching democracy, just the absolute abandonment of even the idea of national sovereignty, of the rights of the people, the rights of the accused, the right to privacy, I say they both made something akin to a good point. Chomsky made the point that Chomsky, I think, came at it more from the kind of 19th century libertarian socialist position. And, you know, I think he's a bit extreme for me. I agree with him definitely on some things. I mean, Manufacturing Consent, Keeping the Rabble in Line, those are great books. He has some views on other things that I just maybe a bit too to the left for me on other issues, but he does understand that we are that the whole narrative of democracy is one that's been crafted by elites, and that that's inherently contradictory. And by the way, he's not a shill for the Soviet model. He was very critical of the Soviet Union and of its usurpation of the broad popular movements from below, the working movements, the working class movements that shaped the original Russian Revolution were co-opted by the Leninists. I mean, he's very critical of that. So you can't say that he's some kind of a shill for authoritarian governments that are anti-U.S., like a lot of people like to say. Now, I don't want to get into every aspect of Chomsky's philosophy. I would say that I have some problems with the idea that, let's say, certain people on the political left who can... let's put it this way. I no more hold terrorists to be freedom fighters than I hold... the people who expanded west in the name of manifest destiny to be freedom fighters just because they claimed they were spreading democracy as some kind of a claim, as some sort of a formal banner. We are the forces of American democracy and we're moving west. Well, I don't believe them, and so I'm not going to believe some guy waving a slogan around that they're quote-unquote liberation soldiers. So, I think Chomsky would agree with that, but he does kind of go back and forth in that. And so then we got to consider some of the arguments of the postmodernists, where in the name of some grand narrative, could you not replicate some of the old oppression in the name of battling oppression? And just like with the Native Americans, it wasn't the forces of dictatorship that rounded them up and put them on a reservation. It was the forces of quote-unquote democracy. In the Russian Revolution, it wasn't the forces of tyranny that imposed rule over the Soviet people. It was the forces of quote-unquote liberation. And in the case of the Iraq War, you could argue that they're, both sides, the U.S. and the insurgents, both claim to be for freedom and all these grand things. So again, we have everybody in the world now claiming to be for quote-unquote democracy. Well, they can't all be right. And so I think that the idea that there are structures of oppression that may not necessarily be formally called that, I think is something that has to be acknowledged and that has to be looked at. So again, both made something akin to a good point. I would say that, I guess I would say Foucault, well, I don't want to say he won the debate, but I think that he made a point that the least needs to be considered, and that is, when in the case of Occupy Wall Street, they will go up against the power structure, and what will people say other than that they're dirty, filthy hippies or whatever? Okay, whatever the ruling class media will say. They'll also say, well, don't we have an electoral process? Can't you go out there and vote for all these people? Well, yeah, you can vote for the best candidate that money can buy. And let's face it, thanks to the good old U.S. Supreme Court, which, by the way, I would really love it if they would protest in favor of impeaching some of these judges, but particularly the ones who overturned campaign finance reform. But I probably don't have much say with them. So let me end this by stating that, once again, I want your help in determining whether you want me to stick a lot with mathematics or move more towards philosophy. I am going to go either way. And thank you very much, all of you, for your continued subscriptions and for your continued viewership. Thank you.